Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to Bridgewater's second Juneteenth flag raising. It's great to see you all here giving your support. My name is Janice Campbell-Means. I am chair of Bridgewater Communities for Civil Rights, and I am also one of the co-chairs for the Bridgewater Juneteenth Planning Committee. We hope that you will continue this celebration in joining us at the Black Hat Brewery for our Juneteenth fundraiser. There will be food trucks, raffle, live music, and of course there will be baskets that we'll be raffling off. And don't forget about our Juneteenth celebration on Saturday. We're all hoping and praying that the weather holds off, but it's Saturday at the Bridgewater Middle School from 2 to 6. And please make sure that you visit the BCCR table to get BCCR information and information about the Juneteenth event on Saturday. Now we'd like to go right into our land acknowledgement by Dr. Joyce Rain Anderson.
Winikasa. I humbly ask us to acknowledge the Wampanoag and Massachusetts peoples whose land we are on, and to think about what that means, to think about what you know about this history and place. The time has come to reckon with the history that we are a nation built by stolen bodies on stolen lands. Each of you participating today lives on Indigenous land, and wherever you are and wherever you go, it is your responsibility to find out whose lands you are on and acknowledge that space and the people. In these spaces, you will find reminders in the names of rivers, streets, trails, or public areas. As current occupiers, this is an invitation for you to find out what these places mean in Indigenous language and the histories and deeper meanings. Bridgewater is part of the Setauket, or Bridgewater Purchase of 1649, which includes Bridgewater, East Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, and Brockton, or formerly North Bridgewater. Massagwatucket means the great pouring forth place where the rivers converge. The Setauket River is part of the Wampanoag Canoe Passage. Bridgewater has also been called Titicut after the Massachusetts village at the place of the great river, now known as the Taunton River, which flows out to the ocean. Our Commonwealth name, Massachusetts, means at the great hill. So land has meaning. Wampanoag and other indigenous peoples of this area have been here for millennia, living as caretakers of these lands long before the 1620 landing of the Pilgrims, long before Columbus. Despite the many attempts at erasure, indigenous peoples are still here. As beings living on this indigenous lands, it is our responsibility to know more accurate histories and stories, to honor and incorporate indigenous knowledges and other knowledges into our teachings and ways of being, and to understand the meaning of land as our relative and not a commodity. A land acknowledgement should not be taken lightly, but as an act of disruption in order to undo indigenous erasure. A land acknowledgement urges us to be accountable to undo colonial practices that stand in the way of true equity for all. Katapatamano.
Thank you, Dr. Joyce Rain Anderson, for your land acknowledgement. It is always important to recognize and show respect for the land we stand on. I want to take this moment to thank BCCR, who worked tirelessly to make the Juneteenth flag raising happen, and I want to thank the Town Council for their continuous support. So now I am asking that the Town Council Vice President Dennis Gallagher come up to read the resolution.
Good afternoon, everybody, and it's great to be here this afternoon to read this proclamation on behalf of the Bridgewater Town Council. It's important for me to point out that this resolution was introduced to the council in April by Councilor Eric Moore and by Councilor Susan Robinson. And I know that Council President Eric Moore is here today. Councilor Fred Chase is also here, and so is Councilor Mark Lindy is here today too. So this proclamation, when it was introduced 2 years ago, was unanimously approved by the council, and this year was also unanimously approved by the council. And we enthusiastically support this event and the meaning and beliefs behind it. So therefore, whereas in 2021 and 2022, Bridgewater Communities of Civil Rights and the First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church in Bridgewater hosted 2 successful Juneteenth events in Bridgewater with the support of the town of Bridgewater, the Bridgewater Public Library, Bridgewater State University, and many other members of the community. And whereas the Juneteenth Committee, in cooperation with those mentioned above, and the Bridgewater-Rainham Regional School District, is currently planning a 3rd annual Juneteenth event celebration, which will take place this weekend. And whereas in May of 2021, the town of Bridgewater designated June 19th as a town holiday, and in June of 2022, the town council unanimously supported the raising of the Juneteenth flag from June 15th to June 30th in our town. Whereas the council, as leaders of our community, can have significant impact in supporting the celebration of liberty and justices for all with its support of Juneteenth 2023. And whereas symbols and seemingly small actions can have great meaning, through these actions, all who pass through Bridgewater will see that we honor the history of African Americans and recognize their contribution to American history. Now therefore, the Bridgewater Town Council declares June 19th, 2023, a day of commemoration and celebration, and once again fully supports the Juneteenth flag to be flown with the United States flag in front of the Academy building in the town of Bridgewater from June 15th to June 30th, 2023. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to ask that we all stand, because we are going to sing the Black National Anthem, which is on the back side of your program. I am not Beyonce, so don't judge me. Okay, I ask that you continue standing as we raise the Juneteenth flag. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the world that we are now living in. This sometimes volatile world that we live in is a world that's working very hard to erase Black history, our culture, our books, our contribution. It is even more important to celebrate us so that we can share who we are and who our ancestors were, and what we have achieved and what we have been through. In the words of John Lewis, ours is not the struggle of one day, 1 week, or 1 year. Ours is the struggle of one judicial appointment or presidential term. Ours is the struggle of a lifetime, or maybe even many lifetimes. And each of us, in every generation, must do our part. I repeat, each of us, in every generation, must do our part. We can't sit back and be happy and glad and kumbaya when we have moments like this and we feel good. There's work to be done. We are being erased in the history books. We are being erased everywhere. So please, I ask that as you teach, as you get yourself ready to fight the struggle, teach the next generation to fight the struggle. Now I am going to ask Danielle McCow, who is a junior at the Bridgewater Rainham Regional High School, to come up and do her reading.
Freedom, change, life altering. What does Juneteenth mean to me? By dictionary definition, Juneteenth marks the day that the last of the enslaved people in America were freed, but it means so much more than that.
Juneteenth is a time to be remembered all the ways in which, for Black people, we, as a people, were made to feel inferior and denied inalienable rights, and that should not have happened. Descendants of the continent of Africa who were brought here without consent, we are survivors, overcomers, contributors to the American society.
It's a time to reflect on those before us and set the path for those after us so that history does not repeat itself, so that our present, which will become our history, reveals growth and not making the same mistakes. When we know better, we're responsible for doing better.
Juneteenth, a day for redemption for some, but a day of loss for others. For me, however, Juneteenth is the embodiment of gratitude, grateful for freedom and a new beginning.
Juneteenth to me is about creating and keeping joy as well as unity amongst all people. For every little girl and little boy who has ever been left out, excluded, denied their human rights, this holiday is to recognize them and see them as something greater than just a skin color, racial identity, and sexual orientation.
For those who are role models for me, for those who have overcome adversity, for everything I have and for everything that I'm going to be able to do, I'm grateful that God allowed such a day to be born, because without it, I would be a person who dreams to grow to see adulthood, restrained by the shackles of slavery, and not be able to dream big and achieve big. Now, the possibilities of a bright and amazing future are within my reach.
Symbolized with bright colors and loud music, Juneteenth is about expressing creativity, a love of freedom, and not letting your voice be silenced for the comfort of others. For the promotion of free will and the encouragement of the younger generations, Juneteenth is celebrating the forming of lives and the remembrance of the many influential people who've made me feel proud to be African American.
I can not only dream big, but achieve big. I expect to be measured based on the value I bring to the world, and not as one who lords or rules over another. I expect people to evaluate me based on my words, demeanor, and character, and not on my skin color. And I am allowed to say what I want and love who I want without judgment creeping in. And for those who dislike the change or insist for any other way. I have no anger nor hatred, because gratitude for what one has and for what one has overcome is infinitely larger and more valuable than anger and hatred because of what others have done.
Juneteenth is a celebration that calls to everyone in America, of every race and every culture, of every hue and every ability, to know our history as a country and to not avoid it or hide from it. And it is a call to celebrate the contributions of people of African descent, contributions that have touched every part of American society and the fabric of what it means for us to be an American citizen.
We, the people of the United States of America, are a melting pot of people from all around the globe. Racial division is a man-made construct. There is one race, the human race. We are called upon to value and respect every human being.
As a direct quote from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, on Freedom's Eve, or the eve of January 1st, 1863, the first watch night services took place. On that night, enslaved and free African Americans gathered in churches and private homes all across the country, awaiting news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. At the stroke of midnight, prayers were answered as all enslaved people in Confederate states were declared legally free. Union soldiers, many of whom were black, marched onto plantations and across cities in the South, reading small copies of the Emancipation Proclamation, spreading the news of freedom in Confederate states. Only through the 13th Amendment did emancipation end slavery through the United States.
But not everyone in the Confederate territory would immediately be free. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation was made effective in 1863, it could not be implemented in places still under Confederate control. As a result, in the westmost Confederate state of Texas, enslaved people would not be free until much later. Freedom finally came on June 19, 1865, when some 2,000 Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas. The Army announced that the more than 250,000 enslaved black people in the state were free by executive decree. This day came to be known as Juneteenth by the newly freed people in Texas.
Juneteenth marked a new beginning for America. Change is hard on an individual, personal level for each of us, and even more so on a nationwide level. Please don't be afraid to peel back the layers of our complex, painful history as a nation. It's healthy to deal with the trauma of our past on a personal and historic level. It makes us better, more empathetic, and more unified.
Being open to change, open to new ideas, open to being challenged on our beliefs, and always seeking to treat each person as a life of value and beauty is a life worth living. Doing unto others as we would want to do unto us, that should be our goal.
Juneteenth means that we matter. We all matter. For a very long time, the message was that we as black people didn't matter. But Juneteenth means that all of us need to stand up for human rights for all people, because we all matter.
Juneteenth is a time of celebration. We are all connected, every single one of us. When I'm free, you're free. When you're free, I'm free. Let us walk in celebration of Juneteenth. That's a life worth living.
Thank you very much. See, generation in the process. Our next speaker is Dr. Kevin McGowan. He is the Associate Professor of Elementary and Early Childhood Education, Academic Director at Bridgewater State University. He has over 25 years as an early childhood educator, worked as a pre-K Head Start teacher, and education manager with the District of Columbia Public Schools. Dr. Kevin McGowan.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me Thank you for having me here. Thank you. So I'm going to share a bit with you about what my family has shared with me regarding Juneteenth. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. Houston is about 45 miles away from Galveston, Texas. My family used to go to Galveston, Texas on Juneteenth to celebrate Juneteenth and my sister's birthday, her birthday happens to be on June 19th. So I am going to start by reading Executive Order number 3 from my On Juneteenth book by Annette Gordon Reed. If you haven't gotten this book, I would recommend that you get this one and add it to your summer reading list. And I have to take my glasses off to read, so. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. That last line is a little odd to me because in all my readings about enslaved people, I never read about any of them being idle. So I'm going to flip forward a bit. In 1872, in Houston, 4 black men, Richard Allen, Richard Brock, Elias Dibble, and Jack Yates, pooled their resources and raised money to buy land in the city of Houston for the express purpose of celebrating Juneteenth, creating Emancipation Park, one of the oldest parks in Texas. It was later taken over by the city of Houston, and in those days of segregation, Emancipation Park was specifically for black people. Emancipation Park has special meaning to me because I used to go there as a child with my family, sometimes on Juneteenth, but other times we went to Emancipation Park, and my family made sure that I understood the history connected with Emancipation Park. The stories of my family celebrating Juneteenth have been passed down from my great-grandparents to my grandparents to my parents to me. So my great aunt and uncle, my father and my 95-year-old father, and his siblings have always shared stories of how they celebrated Juneteenth when they were children. So there were talks about all-night barbecues of roasting of whole hogs. You always had to have something red, so red soda pop, red beans and rice, watermelon, because as my family said to me, that red represented, thank you, red represented strength and vitality. And later, when I went to college, I understood that the red also represented the blood that was shed by people as they fought for independence across the generations. So always remember that there are people in Texas today in 2023 fighting against the injustice that we all read about in the newspapers regarding Texas. There were folks in 1865 fighting against injustice, and remember, triumph over despair always wins out every time. So I'll stop there. I could talk to you all the rest of the time about my remembrances of Juneteenth, but I'm going to stop here.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kevin McGowan. I just want to take a step backwards. When Danielle McCall was speaking, you can see that that was not Ryan Brutus. He was unable to make it. So Caleb Barrios, the DEI coordinator, stepped up to help her. So that was who assisted her with the. Okay, our next speaker is Rig Knoll. Rig Knoll has been married for 19 years, father of 4, papa to 3 grandchildren. He's an active member of the town's finance committee, the founder and owner of Bridgewater Area NFL Youth Flag Football League, and former chair of the town's ad hoc DEI. Rig Knoll.
Good afternoon. Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank God for allowing all of us to be here. What a beautiful day. You know, as I reflect about today, so many didn't make it today, so I'm really thankful that we are here. Secondly, I want to thank Janice, Rebecca somewhere, Shirley, and the members of BCCR for allowing me this opportunity to speak. Thank you. What does Juneteenth mean to me? When I began to wrap my thoughts around this question, the floodgates of my mind began to overwhelm me. My thoughts journeyed down countless paths. Some thoughts were good, some thoughts were indifferent, some thoughts angered me. Because of the acts of today, the things that we see that are happening, the magic eraser that some are trying to apply in erasing the history of Black people, people that look like me. Some display of love and peace and forgiveness. Making sense and organizing my thoughts, I landed on the following. Juneteenth means the following to me. Number one, the amazing strength that our strong Black men and strong Black women displayed against the eyes of hate and evil. Just think about that. To stand tall, to stand firm against evil, you have to have Superman and Superwoman type strength. Number two, the amazing strength that our white brothers, our white sisters shown, joined shoulder to shoulder to battle this hate and evil with us. Many of you are here today. Thank you. I thought about the amazing children, and yes, the amazing white children too, who stood tall and firm against this same hate and same evil I can envision their resiliency. I can envision their resolve. I can envision them not giving a damn about this hate, about this evil, and they continue to march on and play together, and they face the same evil and pushed forward. Juneteenth is a celebration of love and freedom. It is a time to reflect and understand where we were, where we are currently, and where do we want to be for the long haul. I don't know about you. While I'm still alive in my lifetime, I want to see America, I want to see a country, I want to see a global network that behaves in a position or disposition of love and kindness. Juneteenth across the United States is to celebrate the freedom of Black people. However, as we celebrate, the fight persists as this freedom is in constant attack. Juneteenth here in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, is an opportunity to lead the way and demonstrate as God's children that we can live in love, that we can live in peace, that we can prosper through the hate. Regardless of your skin color, your profession, your academic status, whatever your disposition is, I want to see this Bridgewater be an example to every Massachusetts town in every state thereof. This is what Juneteenth means to me. I personally will continue to do my best to lead by example. It starts in my home. I extend that example in my workplace through conversations with my friends. And I'm very intentional about bringing others together through my flag football program. This is what Juneteenth means to me. Thank you. God bless.
Bit of a commercial break right now. If anybody's in need of water, we have water in the coolers here. Sorry I didn't let you know that earlier, but if you need water, please help yourself. Our next speaker is Justin Means. He is a member of BCCR, a member of the Juneteenth Planning Committee. He is a teacher at the New England Children's Center. He currently works in a residential home and works with the autistic. Justin Means.
Hello. I'd like to share an African proverb. It goes by, it takes a village to raise a child. Some of you may have heard that. But for the ones who have not, it means that it takes a whole community to make sure that a child is safe, healthy, and secure in order for a child to fully develop to achieve their dreams. Dreams are very important. Although we all may be different, we all have a dream that motivates us to become the best person that we can possibly be. Dreams have no limitations, and they never should. Before the Emancipation Proclamation, Black slaves dreamed of freedom. They dreamed of having a home to themselves, They dreamed of working for themselves and not for another person. They dreamed of not having to worry that a family member might be taken away from them at any given second. And most of these dreams became a reality on June 19th, 1865, when the last slaves were told that they were free in Galveston, Texas. While some of the former slaves left their plantations to find the separated family members, others went to build their own homes. And some even stayed and decided to party on the streets and have a huge celebration with food, drinks, parades, and music. It was not just the former slaves that participated in the celebration. Some of the former slave owners also participated in the celebration for the freedom of slaves. Although they gained freedom, the former slaves did not get any money or land after slavery, and many faced harsh battles with American citizens who decided to terrorize them without any government protection. Juneteenth was an American holiday when it first started, but it was quickly suppressed, and not many people knew about it until recently. It took countless black bodies being killed in the public eye for Juneteenth to become a national holiday in 2021. And I'm happy this holiday is getting recognition that it deserves, and the history is not being forgotten, but I'm not satisfied from what I see. I'm not seeing equality. During my lifetime in Boston, I've seen the city completely shut down to hold one of the largest parades in the nation to celebrate the Irish. I've seen in May, the streets of Boston are filled with people going to bars and restaurants to celebrate Cinco de Mayo with Hispanic cuisine and music. And just last week, there was a huge parade that included floats, music, and other forms of entertainment to celebrate LGBTQ and the Pride movement. But I don't really recall that many things happening during Black History Month. For Juneteenth, there's a celebration at Franklin Park Zoo, but the amount of people that show up there are not the same to the other holidays. From my point of view, the only time people show up for Black people is when one of us are killed in the street. Now, there was a statue that was recently put up in place to represent Dr. Martin Luther King in Boston, and it's been celebrated and honored, but I don't think it represents what Dr. King stood for. Dr. King made an impactful I Had a Dream speech that was heard around the globe. With one speech, he was able to get people to think differently and be more open to working and interacting with people of different races and backgrounds. He wanted to reach the mountaintop, but died before he could get there. That is what many people know about Dr. Martin Luther King and his dream, but many fail to realize that in the last few moments of his life, Dr. King believed that his dream was becoming a nightmare. Dr. King believed that during the last few moments of his life, he was preaching about economic inequalities and how they were damaging Black people, and how he was leading his people into a burning building. But no one listened to me. No one listened to him. And as we live in the present day, the wealth gap continues to increase. At the beginning, I said that it takes a village to raise a child, but for many Black people in America, it seems that there are many villages that do not care for us. In fact, we are just tolerated. Celebrating Juneteenth is embracing Black history, Black culture, and American culture. And I'm hoping that one day we can fully celebrate Juneteenth and have parades and like all the other holidays that are celebrated in America. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. I want to take this moment to thank all of our speakers, Dr. Joyce Rain Anderson, Town Councilor Vice President Dennis Gallagher, Chris Hartman for raising the flag, Daniel McCall and Kayla Barrows, Dr. Kevin McGowan, Rig Knoll, and Justin Means. I want to thank BCCR, the Town Council, the Bridgewater Police Department for the extra effort you gave to us today, all of the crew of BTV. I ask that as we're wrapping this up, you don't forget to stop by the BCCR table to get information on the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday. The weather's gonna hold out. But I also want you to pick up information from BCCR and join the struggle, so you can be the generation that prepares the next generation. Thank you.